My ex-girlfriend is coming to Thanksgiving dinner, so you can't come. My girlfriend said this to me after I had already spent time and money helping her family get ready for the holiday, and those words shattered me more than I ever expected. The way she said it was so casual, so dismissive, as if I was some side character in her life who could simply be erased without consequence. I remember standing in her kitchen that afternoon, holding a bag of groceries I had just picked up for her mom's recipe when she dropped it on me. Her tone was flat, like she was telling me to take out the trash. She didn't even look me in the eyes. At first I thought she was joking. I let out this nervous little laugh, waiting for her to smile and say she was kidding. But she didn't. Instead, she rolled her eyes at me like I was being childish and repeated herself with even less emotion. "My ex will be there, and I don't want drama, so it's better if you don't come." My heart sank into my stomach. I wanted to ask her how she could even say that after everything I had done for her and her family. The decorations I helped put up, the hours I spent driving across town for ingredients, the small repairs I did around her parents' house, just to make sure their holiday was perfect. I wanted to remind her of the countless nights I stayed up with her when she was stressed, making sure she felt supported. But the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I forced a smile, the kind you put on when you're trying to hide the fact that your insides are breaking. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. I nodded, as if her words made sense, but inside, I felt the air leave my lungs. It was as if she had just drawn a line in the sand, and I realized I was standing on the wrong side. What cut the deepest wasn't just being excluded. It was how little weight my feelings seemed to carry in her world. She didn't pause to think about how it might hurt me. She didn't hesitate or try to cushion the blow. It was almost as if I was never really part of her family, like I thought I was. The countless dinners where I tried to impress her parents, the effort I put into fitting in the money I spent to contribute to their traditions, it all suddenly felt meaningless. As she walked past me, humming to herself, already planning her outfit for Thanksgiving, my chest tightened. I stared down at the bag of groceries in my hands, realizing that the food inside was meant for a celebration I wasn't even welcome at. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Love began to blur into humiliation. Trust turned into suspicion. And I realized maybe I had been fooling myself all along, thinking I was building a future with someone who truly saw me. I carried the groceries to the counter, quietly placed them down, and said nothing. But inside, I knew the truth. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. This was the moment I began to understand that I was in love with someone who never intended to keep me at her table at all. I remember everything I did for her family's Thanksgiving like it happened yesterday. I was the one who volunteered to pick up the groceries because I wanted to ease her mother's stress. I was the one who climbed on a shaky ladder to string up the lights along their porch, making sure the house looked warm and inviting for the holiday. I even fixed the wobbly dining room chair her dad had been complaining about for months, tightening the screws so no one would fall during dinner. Every little detail I poured myself into wasn't just about the holiday. It was my way of showing that I was serious about her, that I wanted her family to know I belonged. But instead of being embraced, I ended up being dismissed like I was nothing. She told me I couldn't come, that my place at the table didn't matter, that all my work, my time, my effort, it was all disposable, just like me. I thought about how many times I sacrificed my own family traditions to be with hers, how I skipped out on gatherings with my parents because she wanted me by her side. I believed we were building something real, that my investment in her world was worth it. But in that moment, I realized how wrong I was. She had her excuses ready, polished, and cold. She told me she didn't want drama if her ex saw me there, like I was the problem, like my presence was somehow a threat to the peace of her family's dinner. She said it so matter-of-factly, as if keeping me away was the only logical choice. But what she didn't realize, or maybe what she didn't care about, was how those words shattered me. I couldn't help but replay old conversations in my head. The times she compared me to him, brushing it off with a laugh like it was harmless. The way her voice always softened when his name came up. That flicker of something in her eyes I never wanted to admit was still there. The quiet smiles she thought I didn't notice when a memory of him slipped into our conversations. I ignored it all, convincing myself that I was overthinking, that I was just being insecure. I told myself she was with me for a reason, that if she wanted him, she would have been with him. But standing there with her words echoing in my head, "My ex is coming, so you can't," those dots started to connect. All the red flags I brushed aside suddenly came together like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to see. And when the picture formed, it was betrayal staring back at me. It wasn't just that she excluded me. It was that she made it clear where I stood in her heart. I wasn't her priority. I wasn't her choice. I was the safe option, the one who did the work, who gave the effort, who sacrificed quietly in the background. And now I saw it clearly. I was never going to be enough, not as long as she kept one foot planted in her past. That realization sat heavy in my chest, pressing down until it was hard to breathe. I thought I was building a life with her. But the truth was, I had been building a seat at a table I was never meant to sit at. On Thanksgiving Day, I stayed home. The silence in my apartment was deafening, like the world had emptied itself just to remind me that I was unwanted somewhere else. I tried turning on the TV, but every channel was flooded with smiling families, turkey dinners, and the kind of warmth I had thought I'd finally found with her. Instead, I sat in the dim light, imagining her family gathered around the table, the clinking of silverware, the sound of laughter rolling across the room, and her ex sitting there, comfortably included, while I was deliberately left out. My phone never buzzed, not a single message, no quick check-in to ask how I was holding up, no photo of a plate set aside for me. Nothing, just silence. That was the part that burned the most. If she had truly cared, wouldn't she have reached out? Even just once to let me know I was still on her mind? But no, she didn't. The night stretched on, and the longer it went, the more invisible I felt. Loneliness has a way of amplifying every memory, every sacrifice. My mind replayed the birthdays I planned for her, how I saved up to surprise her with the necklace she had once admired in a shop window, the way her eyes lit up when she unwrapped it, and how I thought in that moment that I had made her happy. I thought of the times I stood by her when she was stressed with work, making late-night coffee runs, staying awake just to talk her through her fears. I thought of the anniversaries I carefully planned, making reservations, writing her heartfelt letters, pouring every ounce of love I had into making her feel cherished. And yet, with one cold, careless sentence, "You can't come," it all felt erased, as if none of it ever mattered, as if I had been nothing more than a placeholder, someone she could dismiss whenever it became inconvenient to keep me around. Anger began to build inside me, curling into something sharp. But it wasn't the kind of anger that makes you shout or throw things. It was quieter, heavier. It was the kind of anger that forces you to sit still and really see things for what they are. I felt confusion, too. How could someone I gave so much to treat me like I was disposable? And heartbreak, of course, the kind that makes your chest ache like a wound no one else can see. But as I sat in that silence, something shifted. For the first time, I stopped asking why she didn't choose me. Instead, I started asking why I kept begging for a seat at her table in the first place. Why did I believe her family's acceptance was proof of my worth? Why did I put so much effort into convincing people who clearly never wanted me there? It hit me with painful clarity. I had been fighting for a place that was never mine to begin with. And maybe, just maybe, that was the moment I stopped needing it. Something inside me hardened and healed at the same time. I wasn't going to chase after scraps of belonging anymore. Not with her. Not with anyone. A few days later, she walked into my place like everything was normal. She dropped her bag on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and casually mentioned that Thanksgiving was fine. Just that, fine. No details, no warmth, no invitation to share in the experience I had helped build with my own money and effort. I tried to keep my voice steady as I asked how it went. Who was there? What did they talk about? Did her family enjoy the food I had helped pay for? She gave me vague answers, deflecting each question with a shrug or a distracted smile. The more I pressed, the more her tone shifted. Her patience thinned, and soon she snapped, telling me I was being too sensitive, too controlling, too hung up on something that wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal. Because behind her sharp words, I could see the cracks in her mask. She wasn't just dismissing me, she was hiding something, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her flat out that leaving me out of Thanksgiving after everything I did for her family wasn't just disrespectful, it was betrayal. That's when the truth slipped. She didn't even realize she was saying it. Not at first. But once the words were out, there was no taking them back. She admitted she still had feelings for her ex, that she didn't want things to be awkward for him, that she wanted him to feel comfortable. Comfortable. She cared more about his comfort than mine, more about his feelings than about the man who had been standing by her side, investing his time, money, and heart into her and her family. The words hit me like a blade, sharp and clean, cutting through all the illusions I had built around us. In that moment, everything I had ignored, the way her eyes softened when his name came up, the quiet pauses in her voice when she spoke about the past, the excuses she brushed off whenever I questioned her, suddenly made sense. She hadn't chosen me. Not really. I had just been filling the space until she figured out whether or not she wanted him back. I felt the silence between us grow heavier, stretching like a gulf I couldn't cross. For so long, I had stayed quiet, swallowing my doubts, burying my insecurities, convincing myself that love meant patience, forgiveness, understanding. But what I had mistaken for love was me letting myself be second best, pretending it didn't hurt every time she made me feel like a shadow in my own relationship. That night, my silence broke. I told her I wasn't going to be her safe option anymore. I wasn't the backup plan she could keep around while she entertained the idea of someone else. I wasn't going to fight for a woman who couldn't even decide if she truly wanted me. She tried to backpedal, her voice trembling as she insisted that she loved me, that I was overreacting, that she didn't mean it like that. But I had already seen the truth in her eyes, heard it in the cracks of her voice. She wanted him to feel comfortable, even if it meant erasing me, and I realized I was done. Done being erased, done being her second choice, done pretending this was love. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't beg her to choose me. I simply stood up, looked her in the eyes one last time, and walked away. There was no dramatic exit, no slammed doors, just the sound of my own footsteps carrying me out of a place I never truly belonged. And strangely, that silence was louder than any argument we had ever had. Later that night, my phone lit up with messages from her. At first, they were defensive, telling me I was overreacting, that I should understand, that it wasn't about me. Then they shifted into pleading. She said she loved me, that I meant more to her than her past, that she didn't want to lose me over one misunderstanding. But the thing about misunderstandings is that they aren't supposed to make your chest feel like it's caving in. They aren't supposed to strip away every ounce of trust you thought you had. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was clarity. For so long, I had convinced myself that love meant being patient, forgiving, and understanding. But now I understood too well. I understood that I had been giving my heart to someone who never really offered me hers in return. I understood that she was comfortable making me feel invisible if it meant keeping her ex's memory alive at her table. And I understood that if I stayed, I'd only keep bleeding for someone who wasn't willing to stop reopening the wound. So I didn't respond. Not to the apologies, not to the excuses, not to the promises she suddenly started making when she realized I was serious this time. I deleted the messages, blocked her number, and let the silence do what my words never could. Show her that I was done. At first, it hurt. The nights were long, the house too quiet, my thoughts too loud. But slowly, that silence became my peace. I started filling my time with people who actually valued me. Friends who checked in, family who welcomed me without conditions, moments that didn't leave me questioning whether I was enough. I went back to the things I had set aside for her, rediscovering pieces of myself I had forgotten I loved. Each small step was a reminder that I wasn't broken. I had just been bending too far for someone who never bent for me. The biggest twist came when the holidays rolled around again. This time I wasn't sitting in silence, imagining her with him. I was surrounded by people who actually wanted me there. People who laughed at my jokes, who filled my plate, who made space for me at their table without hesitation. And in that warmth, I realized something she would never understand. The real revenge wasn't in making her jealous or proving her wrong. It was in walking away and reclaiming my worth. It was in knowing that the next time someone tried to make me feel like an option, I'd remember I was always enough. That was my closure. And that was the ending she never saw coming.